Fought in the Mirror Universe as part of the Terran rebellion against the Klingon-Cardassian alliance, the Battle of Terok Nor took place shortly after rebel forces had seized control of the eponymous space station in an armed revolt, and consisted of a fierce defensive engagement as the battered and demoralized Terran garrison attempted to protect their new conquest from a powerful alliance counterattack. In an attempt to prepare for the coming siege, Captain Miles O'Brien of the Terran rebellion ordered the rapid construction of a new warship based upon designs for the Federation Defiant class that had previously been captured from the Prime Universe. As the Alliance fleet drew closer to Terok Nor, it became clear that the final stages of the new ISS Defiant's construction would not be completed in time, and a plan was put into place to delay the approaching battle group until the ship could be made ready for combat. The Alliance fleet was personally commanded by Regent Worf from the bridge of his flagship, a drastically upscaled and extremely well-armed version of a Klingon negh'var battlecruiser operating under the name Regency 1. As the Alliance flagship and its battle group reached the perimeter of the Bajor system, the Terran rebels put their delaying strategy into action. Terran Captain Julian Bashir and mercenary Jadzia Dax were dispatched from Terok Nor aboard the station's last remaining raider, a vessel both visually and functionally identical to the Peregrine-class attack fighters of the Prime Universe. Acting on intelligence from a captured Alliance official, the captain projected a cluster of 5 warp shadows around his vessel, causing his ship to appear to be a full squadron of fighters on hostile sensors. As Bashir's illusory fighter wing passed the Alliance battle group, Regent Worf turned his ships to pursue, believing that the fighters were attempting to flee the battlefield or summon assistance, and Bashir was able to keep the enemy fleet in a holding pattern for some time, allowing the rebels aboard Terok Nor to finish work on the ISS Defiant. Eventually, the Alliance fleet saw through the Terran's distraction, abandoning pursuit of Bashir's raider and turning their forces to assault the station. But as the first of the Alliance's birds of prey began to strafe Terok Nor, the now operational ISS Defiant cleared its moorings and entered the fray. The Defiant was quickly targeted by several Galore-class cruisers positioned around Terok Nor, and began to maneuver through the station's superstructure to evade enemy fire. While circling the station at close range, the Terrans were able to destroy a hostile bird of prey and heavily damage another, but with the heavier Alliance vessels finally regrouping, Terok Nor was becoming encircled by larger warships. As the station itself returned fire at the Alliance's Galore-class cruisers, the Defiant suffered moderate damage, but the Terran vessel nevertheless succeeded in forcing another bird of prey into the open and destroying it with a well-placed torpedo. Though the Alliance's vanguard had been largely wiped out, the colossal Regency 1 was now in firing range, and the Defiant suffered numerous critical hits from the enormous vessel's heavy disruptors. With their shields almost depleted, the Terrans were forced to charge the Alliance flagship and engage it at point-blank range, hoping to escape the sight of its fearsome ventral cannons. As it strafed the massive ship, the Defiant was able to inflict moderate damage on the shields of Regency 1, but the Terran vessel had suffered massive damage to its own shields and hull. The final bird of prey, that had been heavily damaged earlier in the battle, took notice of the Defiant's vulnerability and positioned itself for a killing blow. But before the vessel could launch its torpedoes, it was struck by lethal weapons fire from Captain Bashir's raider, which had returned to rejoin the battle. With the Alliance cruisers caught up in a fierce battle with Terok Nor, and Regency 1 unable to target the small frames of the ISS Defiant and Bashir's raider at close range, the two Terran vessels were able to inflict massive damage on the Alliance flagship, using its huge frame to protect themselves from fire and coordinating precision strikes against its critical subsystems. Eventually, the Terrans succeeded in disabling the shields and weapons of Regency 1, and without the support of their flagship, the Alliance cruisers attacking the station were quickly driven back. With his battle group severely crippled and unable to continue fighting, Regent Worf ordered a full retreat from the field of battle, resulting in a decisive victory for the Terran rebellion. The victory at Terok Nor allowed the Terran rebellion to secure the station as a permanent base of operations, as well as proving to the Klingon-Cardassian alliance that they were able to defend the facility against steep odds. Regent Worf was outraged at his defeat, finding it impossible to believe that such a small force could have successfully routed his assault fleet without assistance, and though he made several attempts, the Regent never succeeded in wresting control of Terok Nor away from the Terran rebellion. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy the channel, why not follow the link and check out our plans for Spacedock Planetside, an upcoming series centered on sci-fi ground vehicles and aircraft.